Welcome to Moms with a Call. We're not here to preach, convert, or fix you. We're here to listen.
We're McKenzie
and Rebecca, two women with messy stories, honest questions, and a quiet hope that maybe Jesus looks a lot more like love than we were ever shown. If you've ever wondered if there's a place for you in all of this, there is. Come, have a seat at the table. You're safe here. You're welcome here. Let's begin.
All right. How are you?
Yeah.
How's life been?
I'm good. Kiddos are both in school today. We got no weather over that cancellation on Monday. It rained a little bit.
We got a little bit of wind. There was a 20-minute period where it was insane, but that was it.
Yeah. And also too, I'm used to hurricanes here. So it probably could have been windy and rainy, and I was
this is normal. I don't know what you're talking about.
It was over me.
Yeah. I know. Evan came up at noon. He was like, wow, this tornado weather. It's not even safe to go out. And it was not even drizzling. It was just cloud.
I know. It didn't even rain here till 2 p.m.
Yeah. I don't know why they didn't have school.
Okay.
That's crazy.
I know.
But I get it.
Well, the buses would have been tough taking the kids home from school, that the kids that ride the bus. But I was like, to
be honest, I probably would have kept
fine.
them home from school if they had it, because I was nervous about it. Yeah. So whatever. It's really the weather people. Yeah. And they were like, yeah, it actually ended up being a lot less. We would rather it be way less than we expect. We overestimate.
Absolutely.
We don't want a repeat of the mountains.
And make sure the kids are safe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. So.
Yeah, that would be terrible.
Well, what are we talking about today? Is it the autism recording?
I think we're going to do, because Autism Awareness will be coming up soon.
I'm so excited to do this episode.
And I thought it would be good to, me too.
Yeah, okay, cool. So we're going to talk about, when is Autism Awareness Month? Is it April?
Yes, and then the actual day, I think it's all of April, but the actual day is April 2nd.
Okay, amazing. I'm excited to have this conversation because I think it will actually change the way that people view autism, and or at least I hope to, because it's so, I know you have such a different look on autism than most because of your experience with it and Tate, but I also, just through knowing you and through our conversations, I feel like I've had such a different take and understanding of autism as well. And I'm excited for everybody who listens to also kind of have that. So where do you want to start?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I guess we'll start by saying, I know a lot of the listeners probably know a lot about Phoebe because we mention her quite frequently, but I don't know if they know so much about Tate. So I think I've kind of talked about how he's nonverbal, but he's 4 years old and he has autism. He is nonverbal. So he's our second child, our youngest. So we kind of had to learn all the ins and outs of being parents to kids with autism. I had grown up knowing a little bit about it. I was always volunteering in the special needs room in school, but I was more so drawn to the Down syndrome kiddos. I connected with them a lot. I didn't know too much about autism. Definitely not the behind the scenes of being a parent to a child with autism until I was one.
So when was he officially diagnosed with autism, and what were the signs that kind of led to you? Because he wasn't a traditional case, right?
Right. Yes. Tate was a rare, well, I say rare, but I guess it's not the typical, from what his pediatrician said, it's not the typical build-up to an autism diagnosis. What was told to me is typically those kids are missing milestones. There's always this sort of disconnect from the beginning. And this is typical, which is it's so hard to
But a typical on neurotypical.
narrow it down because the autism, yes. Well, even the autism spectrum is so vastly large that everybody's experience is so different. But I think what made Tate's rare is that his was regressive autism. So he was like meeting those milestones, talking, doing all those things, and then he just wasn't. So he like regressed backwards. I don't know if they just don't have as much knowledge on that type of symptom, like those type of symptoms presenting themselves. So we kind of were, and I'm going to keep the story short, but we were just kind of sent around to different specialists for medical testing because they didn't know what was going on with him. So I think we saw 3 different medical specialists for testing. Everything was fine. Everything looked great. And then we saw a naturopathic doctor as well. And then we got his IEP through the county. And that's when he was officially diagnosed. He was about 2.5 or 3. But again, they were like, it's hard to tell if he truly has it because he's so young. It's hard to like give a concrete diagnosis.
Because he hit the milestones previously.
Yes. Yeah. So I think that was what was making his case so hard to get an actual diagnosis. But so that technically is an educational diagnosis. It's not a medical diagnosis. The medical diagnosis you have to see through a psychiatrist, and the wait lists are very, very long. So his medical diagnosis is actually on April 2nd on Autism Awareness Day. And this has been,
Oh my
I know.
gosh.
It's nuts. So, and this has been scheduled for months because he's been on a wait list, you know, for a while. And then 2, you have to find a psychiatrist who takes your insurance. And
of course, the
again,
whole
all the behind the scenes.
I have seen.
It's like playing Tetris.
Oh, I can't even imagine. I've seen moms,
all the
like
ins and
medical
outs.
moms with binders of just like their speech language pathologist, you know, all they have a section in there. Then they have one for their, what is it called? OT, occupational therapy. OT, yeah,
occupational.
And then all the medications they're potentially on or different, like their history of different doctors and specialists. And I just can't even imagine what you guys have to go through to keep it all straight. And so I would love to kind of talk about where you guys were when you noticed something was kind of different about, like, or something was off, he was regressing. Where were you in your faith at that point? And like, were you looking to God were you close to God at that point or no?
So I was still very new to like my reclaimed faith after I turned 30. I had Tate at 28. So yeah, I would have been right, like fresh back into faith. But what was interesting about him was his was very much a slow regression. Like we noticed he kind of stopped responding to his name, not all the time, but sometimes. He stopped making as much eye contact. He stopped showing as much interest in things. And he was a very vibrant, silly, talkative little guy at 2 years old. So, but it was very slow. So it was like, okay, is he teething? Is he sick?
Is he not listening?
Is something going on? Yeah. And so I feel like I always chalked it up to something must be going on until he started just not responding to his name. It was almost like he was in a different world. Like he was checked out. And then he just stopped talking altogether. And then he started stimming. And so that's when I took him to the pediatrician and I was like, I think he needs to be eval'd for autism. Like, I don't know much about autism, but this seems like something's going on here. And I told the pediatrician that he actually is friends with us, so he knows Tate outside of the office. And so he kind of did the eval, but again, he was so little, and it's really hard to diagnose them that little. So he was like, I don't know, let's do genetic testing. Let's send him to the audiologist and see, like, check his hearing. Let's, where else did he send us? I can't remember. And then he was like, well, let's get a like OT and a speech therapist to kind of get eyes on him. And so they can't diagnose autism. So they kind of diagnosed him with sensory processing disorder. So that's kind of what we're like, okay, again, I don't really know what this is, but I started researching it, and he's been getting OT and speech since too. But the crazy thing was, I woke up every night for 2 weeks at the same time around 3 a.m. And I couldn't go back to sleep. I'm sure I was anxious going to bed. Just, there were things changing and I didn't know what was happening, but I think I knew deep down there was something there. And it always opened to this woman. I didn't follow her. I think this is when they just started switching like the algorithm to people you don't follow. And I would open Instagram and it would always be the same woman at the top of Instagram with a little girl with autism. And I had known, like, I feel like the mom instinct, that's why I asked for the eval in the doctor's office. And so that kind of just kickstarted the process of, okay, we need to learn all the things he needs. Can he go to school? Which schools will take him? What kind of therapy services does he need? And the naive part of me thought, oh, well, they'll be covered. We have insurance. That wasn't a thing at all. So that kind of just started unearthing everything. And that's when we did therapy. We've done therapy, speech therapy and OT for 2 years now. And so he'll be getting his diagnosis at his medical at 4. But the educational helped with getting services and resources too.
Good. So why could some kids be diagnosed with autism at 2 and then others not? Or maybe I'm just making that assumption.
You can be diagnosed at 2. I think what they say is it's harder to be diagnosed at 2 because they're so little, and there's a lot of things that they can do, but they don't show that in the evaluation.
Which makes sense. Okay. Because they're so little, and they don't know the doctor always.
Right.
Okay.
And I think they say, like, some of the stuff is behavioral that they'll grow out of. Like, a lot of kids with autism have the overstimulation where they have the meltdowns. Well, so do a lot of 2-year-olds,
yes.
So it's hard. It's such a broad diagnosis. Like, when you do it, there's like 5 categories and there's tons of things that they check for. So I think that's what makes the diagnosis harder, but it's not impossible.
Okay.
But for Tate, it was harder because he was showing signs of doing neurotypical things, but also the speech was such a hindrance and the stimming was a big thing for him, but the behavioral was not there. Like, Tate, he's always happy.
Yeah.
And so that and the social one were really hard for them to like narrow down a diagnosis for. But he still
and like you said, there's such a spectrum, and I think that every kid's going to be different and have these or have a different response to what's going on internally, what's going on in their body with their own thought process. And so I get that as a doctor, it is hard to make those diagnoses, but when care and preventative care to like keep this from going farther, or like maybe can we intervene? Like, what interventions can we do to keep, to help his development go back on track? If that's all dependent on a diagnosis for insurance, why would you not give the diagnosis? I think that's what my holdup is with the doctors and with our healthcare system. I I get wanting to be, again, I totally get wanting to be conservative and not overdiagnose or do the wrong or misdiagnose. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
From what I've gathered, they are so overwhelmed with the amount of kids that are on the wait list for a diagnosis. And an eval is 2 to 3 hours per kid.
Gosh.
So you can only see so many during the day. The spectrum is so wide. I would assume that a lot of it is the workload. Like they just can't see every kid. And they're not just seeing kids with autism, they're seeing kids with ADHD and sensory processing and, just other special needs. That range is so diverse too that I think it's just a lot going on. The wait list for everything is
so
insane.
Then maybe, I guess it just goes back to, it's not necessarily our doctors, it's our insurance and our healthcare. Just that's the issue. So did you guys how did you take the step to be like, okay, he needs speech therapy or he needs occupational therapy? Like, how did you decide that?
So, well, thankfully, you don't need a diagnosis to get OT or speech, but to get insurance to cover it, for the most part, you do. And so while you're on the wait list to get a diagnosis, you're like, well, I don't really want to prevent him from these services that he needs. So let's go ahead and get him started. We knew he needed speech. He wasn't talking.
Nonverbal.
And right. And so we started with speech. But again, finding a therapist that you really connect with and that you trust and that you approve of their technique and how they're going to care for your kid. That's a whole thing. Thankfully, we found. I mean, I tell people all the time that God sent her to us. She has been incredible, and her and Tate are totally bonded. I can't picture her not being a part of our family.
Aww.
And we really liked her because she was child-led. So she plays with him, and she offers him phrases that she thinks is appropriate for the stage that he's at, the age that he's at. And it's like repetition. So it's a lot of modeled speech. And so we started with that, and it is going great. And then she was like, I think you need OT. And one of my friends is an OT. So I asked her, do you think this is something he needs? I don't know if Noah's school does this, but like the speech and the OTs will come into the preschool and do like a little assessment on the kids.
No, I don't think they have speech.
Do they do that?
Like, I don't think they have that at all at her preschool.
So they don't have someone come in and just do like an eval on a random day, and they're not like a part of the staff. But there's a lot of preschools
my
here
knowledge,
that
at least.
You would know. You'd have to sign off on it. Yeah,
we
can't
did have
just
a conversation.
assess your child without your permission.
We did have a conversation because Noah is the youngest out of all of the kids. It was an August birthday. So I asked if she was like behind in any way. I didn't think she was, but I just wanted to double check. And they said something about, no, like we don't think she is. Something about an evaluate. Like we wouldn't even have her evaluated. So maybe they do. And they just like,
okay.
It hasn't come up for her. Maybe it's not every kid.
Yeah. So here in Wilmington, they have speech and OT, and sometimes PT come into the preschools when they're little, and they give every kid an assessment, because sometimes it's really helpful because sometimes kids will have like reflexes that aren't totally there, which OT helps with. They're a completely neurotypical child, but their reflexes might be a little off or need some assistance, or even speech. Some kids just need help. So he had that done, and his OT one, he was like passed with flying colors. But I still felt like he needed something else to help him with school and daily tasks and stuff like that. And so we ended up getting him eval'd for OT, and his OT I actually grew up with in youth group. So that was kind of
Wilmington.
Yeah, that was kind of wild too. I know. But even I was just like, okay, I feel
Like so held by God.
You want to make sure you feel comfortable.
I love that.
Yeah, and that's what it felt like. And they're just such a huge part of Tate's life and his care at home, which was really important to us as well, because we didn't just want to give him therapy and then not have, tools to intervene at home as well. So we get a lot of homework from them. It feels like everyone's team Tate, and it's been a good groove.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Well, I feel like you have such a positive outlook on it now. Was it always positive? Like, was there ever parts where you were just, I don't know, like just struggling?
Yes, absolutely. It was not always positive, and that was really hard for me to work through, because I feel like in the autism community that, have you ever heard of the toxic positivity mindset?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. It kind of felt like that. And I listened a while ago to this podcast with Brene Brown. She was interviewing Dr. Susan David. She's a psychiatrist, like a clinical psychiatrist at Harvard, and she does research on, she says like emotions are actually data. And so she does a bunch of research on toxic positivity and how, like, if we refuse to feel the difficult feelings, we're actually disassociating and suppressing them, and that doesn't lead to resilience. It just leads to more struggling. Yeah. So I think before I listened to that, I really struggled with the guilt of struggling. And struggling as in my life felt like it was flipped upside down, and I had to learn all of these new things, and I was overwhelmed and overstimulated while also kind of mourning a child that no longer existed anymore. He was a totally different child. And worrying about my oldest, because my son now required so much hands-on attention that I was worried about filling her cup as well. And there were nights that we were really sad and really angry, and not for the fact that he has autism, but just for the fact that we still do have to grieve a lot of things with him, and they're little things that to some people are probably like, oh, that doesn't matter. But like, we'll never see him get on stage and do like a cute little performance at preschool with his classmates. And there's places we just can't go. And these are all very little things, but just being like, okay, I need to feel the feelings that I'm feeling. I'm sad. I'm frustrated. I'm overwhelmed. I have guilt for all of this. I had to work through that to be able to be the mom that he needed. And that is a mom who I love that child more than anything. There are many, many things about Tate and the way he is now that I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope that never changes. That I had to get past all of the feelings to be able to be like an emotionally healthy mom, to get to that side of, the positivity and the happiness. It was always there. It's just like, it was a life change for us. And and you're sitting there at night thinking, okay, is he going to live with us forever? what is that going to look like? Can he live on his own? Like the financials of everything, what's that going to look like? The most important thing at the end of the day is he's happy and he's healthy. And that is,
and he is happy
all
and
we
he
care
is
about.
healthy.
He is, his little presence is like, I tell people all the time, he really reminds me of Jesus because he's so content. He's so gentle. He's so compassionate. He is so happy all the time. And it's okay if he wasn't happy all the time. There are times where he gets upset, but it's like when he gets upset and overwhelmed, he needs to go off and regulate or co-regulate and have some time by himself, and he honors that alone time, and so do we. So he reminds me a lot of Jesus's personality. But yeah, there was a really hard time, a dark period that both me and my husband had to work through, and I think the toxic positivity is what you see online, what people tell you. It got to the point where it's like, I don't know if, like, I feel like you just want me to be positive to make you more comfortable because you don't know how to, like, handle the way that I'm feeling right now, because I'm uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable feeling the way I feel. But also at the same time, realizing, okay, I have two kids. They are two totally different kids. And how can I be present? How can I provide them with the things that they need? Learning how to regulate my nervous system and making sure their needs are met, because they're two totally different brains, two totally different needs all the time. But yeah, I really needed that time to grieve.
I mean, I think
like the best word I can put.
And that doesn't, you grieving what you thought your life was going to look like, that doesn't take away from who Tate is today and who he is going to become. It just means that what you thought you were going to have, I think we that actually happens a lot, I think, in our lives, where we think things are going to go one way. And obviously there's a spectrum there too. Something as small as like a career change or can feel really big to a person, but we can't necessarily compare that to a medical issue with your child, right? And so I think that, but what I'm trying to say is that it happens often where we have to kind of grieve this life we thought we were going to live. And that doesn't make our new life bad. That doesn't make our children or the life that they are. It actually ends up being something bigger and better in a way. But that doesn't take away the feelings of that grief either. And so I think you put it really beautifully when you compare just like Tate's life and his aura and his being to just our source, to God, to Jesus, because he is like, his energy is just so pure and so joyful. And I think that is a very common thing that I see in the neurodivergent community. Maybe not everyone, but I know that we've talked about this, you and I, privately, but I would love to chat about it if you're okay talking about it, and how it almost feels like neurodivergent children have this like closer relationship in some sense, like some kind of connection. They're tapped in more with our creator. So would you say that it's true with Tate, and what does that look like?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I always have felt like neurodivergent special needs kids and adults as well, they just have this connection to the divine that I don't think that, I was going to say we neurotypical people, but I'm also neurodivergent myself, having ADHD. But I mean, I feel like I do fall in this category of connection to the divine, of not understanding the magnitude of what they see and hear and the connection that they feel on a daily basis. It's not something I could give you examples of besides the joy that radiates off of these kids and these adults. It's like the childlike innocence never goes away. And I see that in OT when I'm sitting in the waiting room while Tate's getting his session and all those little kids come in for their sessions. And it's just a feeling. It's the presence around you that you can feel it. And even, you know, my close friend's brother is special needs, and I feel it when he's around too. There's just a presence and an aura that's there that's indescribable, that, you know, it feels like they're divinely protected and connected. And it's definitely more of a feeling and a seeing it with your own eyes. And I think when you get really involved with these types of people, special needs, neurodivergent, you witness it for yourself and it changes something in you. Phoebe and I went down to watch polar plunge for the Special Olympics here. And so there were so many people out there and they were all running in the water. And it just like moves you emotionally in a way that it's just indescribable. I really don't know how to verbally explain it.
I know what you're talking about because I used to volunteer all through high school with, oh gosh, I'm like losing the name of the actual place, but it was horse therapy. And so we would work with neurodivergent special needs kids to do like equine therapy. And I just absolutely loved it. It was called Horsepower. That's what it was called. And because I loved horses, and it is like the just the feeling. That's why I say aura, because I really feel like it's like this energetic field around.
It is. Yeah.
You know, it's just palpable. Like you can feel it. Like it's just something is different, but not and I think it makes people uncomfortable sometimes because it's different from, you know, what they're used to. Is not neurotypical. But I almost think maybe the energy is what makes people uncomfortable because it is so pure.
Because it's spiritual. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's something, and I see it with Tate. Like it's so pure, and I think that our world has kind of gotten into what we call neurotypical. This, you know, the way that we walk and talk and think and process, and I don't know if that's almost a disservice to say that there's so many kinds of like non-neuro, neurodivergent, sorry. There's so many kinds of neurodivergence now that I'm like, is this all neurodivergence, or are we all unique being? Like, are we supposed to all be the exact same? Because that I don't know if we are. Not to say that it's harder. I'm not trying to like downplay different kinds of neurodivergence, because I know that there's a spectrum, and like obviously I don't think it was ever God's intended design to have people not be able to, you know, talk and be able to fully express themselves. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying these different processing disorders, are they actually in a way a gift? Is this something that God has given us that we're looking at as, you know, for you, either you have ADD, is this actually a gift of yours and not a bad trait of, or whatever we've labeled it as society, a hindrance. Yeah. It doesn't mean it's not hard. I think gifts can still be very hard to hold, right?
Oh yeah.
But is this part of your path and part of your purpose in this world? And do you think potentially is this part of Tate's path and purpose in this world?
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that he is divinely held. I think with life, there's challenges for everybody. I do know with the autism community, they are very highly intelligent human beings. So I feel as if they use more of their brain than we do. And that is going to look different for everybody. It's hard because we don't live in a society where that is typical. They do require tools to keep them safe. There is a big safety component with neurodivergent kids. And I just think before now, and even now, we just are not fully educated on the magnitude of who they are. But I think there is a lot of research. I think there's a lot of tools. There's a lot of resources. It is still very hard for parents. But I know that there are some places that are popping up as far as support for parents, because I feel like that is forgotten a lot. Whereas, of course, and obviously the child needs the tools and the support and the intervention. But I think navigating it as the caretakers, there's often not much support. So that's very hard as well. But as far as it being a gift, of course, I think it's
I think two things can be true, right? It can be one of the hardest things you've ever had, but one of the most beautiful.
That's exactly how I would label my personal experience with Tate. I think no matter how Tate's life turns out, he's divinely held, and he is pure, and he is beautiful. And I think we just take it one step at a time.
Well, I
figure out as we
wanted
go.
to actually bring up, which I'm so glad, I think he is divinely held, but what's even crazier is I was doing all of the name stuff. I was getting into gematria, the Hebrew name, gematria. For people who don't know, there's like numbers. So you have a Hebrew name, and then there's numbers associated with the Hebrew, with each letter. And so it's
12/12 right now.
Oh.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you're talking about, I know.
I'm telling you, it is the craziest thing. Like,
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine. I thought I saved Tate on here. I might have to go. Where is it? Let me just search Tate in my notes. Oh, did I not save it? Hold on.
I probably have it.
I know. I can also, we text way too much for me to scroll all the way up.
Scroll back, right.
I also have it in one of my other documents. But we did, so I got into this with my spiritual coach, Heather. She was telling me that, maybe while you look for her, Rebecca, if you don't mind, I can just give the background. So essentially, she was saying that there's the Hebrew letters and there's the Hebrew alphabet. It's obviously different from our English alphabet. And with this, so you would have to, sometimes there is a Hebrew spelling of your name. Other times there isn't. And you kind of have to spell it out. Like with just the way that it sounds, the way I just used chat to ask. It was like, hey, how would you spell McKenzie? How would you spell, for Noah and my daughter, that is a Hebrew name. So I didn't have to figure out the spelling. But for Tate, Phoebe was also in there. So Phoebe's good. But Tate, I think Tate, Evan, McKenzie, but wildly enough, Forrest and Noah were both Hebrew names. Like, because they're,
really? I didn't know Forrest was a Hebrew name.
Well, because Forrest is in the Bible. So it's a Hebrew word.
Yeah. Oh, okay. No, I'm sorry. Good. I thought you meant like as a character. No. I was like, well, I missed that one.
No. It was like had a Hebrew spelling already. And so I just asked Chad, I was like, hey, can you figure out the Hebrew spelling of my name, of these names? And when it did that, I went and double checked it because I don't fully trust chat. I'm also moving to Claude now. Claude is working a little bit better for me than chat. I'm kind of mad at chat right now. So anyway, I would do Claude. I would recommend. And essentially these letters correspond to numbers. Each number has, and then the numbers, or sorry, maybe it's backwards. Maybe it's letters, numbers, pictures. Or is it letters, pictures, numbers? I can't remember. I think it goes letters, numbers, pictures, because pictures, that's how they used to write before they had numbers and language was like pictographs. So they would draw out, so some certain things are like represent water or fish or light or any of that. So you can ask Chat or Claude for your Hebrew name, the gematria of your name, and then a breakdown of what that means with the numerology involved as well. And so I did that for everybody, and it was crazy how spot on it was. But did you find it, Rebecca?
Yeah,
oh,
I
you did.
texted
Okay.
it to you.
So for Tate in Hebrew is Tet Yad, which is really cool. It's like the repetition.
It's like
yeah,
mirrored.
exactly. And so Tet is a basket or a shield, and Yod is a hand, which kind of is like, looks like that. It's like a divine spark. And so put together, it's literally shield hand, which means a soul protected by divine purpose on all sides, which is crazy. So then to go even further into it, like the numerology of his name is 38, which reduces to 2, 11 and 2. Because, again, if you don't know numerology, like this will not make sense to you. So I'm sorry. Maybe we need to do another episode on that. But essentially, you take the numbers in the name, add them up, it adds up to 38, but you need to have one number. So you do 3 plus 8, and that equals 11. 11 is like a master number, but it's still not a solid number. So you have to add it again. So 1 plus 1 is 2. So that's the number of his name. So 11 represents the revolution or intuition and spiritual reawakening, and 2 represents partnership, balance, and dual purpose. So then the full combination of his name, which thank you for staying with me on that, I probably lost you, is, I just like love this stuff. I geek out of it. A protected soul, carrying divine purpose and hidden strength. So it literally, his letters are protection, divine spark, protection, divine spark. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, it means his life is divinely held and divinely
which is what
protected,
you say all the time.
Which is what I know. And it's wild because he got diagnosed, or this happened when he was 2. And that's his
number.
numerology number.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So crazy.
And then God was like waking me up at 3 a.m. every night. It was, there was so much that God was involved in with this that, and there's still, I mean, even today, I still feel him working and like his purpose and his plan for him. And I'm so curious and so eager to find out what it is. And I even look back on my life, which my mom and I were reflecting on. We were talking about how I was involved with special needs kids like most of my life. Like I'm connected to them to some degree. And she was like, I found your senior project the other day. And she was like, do you remember you did it on autism? And I was like, oh my gosh, I did. Which is so wild because like I said, I was more connected to the kids with Downs. Like I spent most of my time with them. But I researched autism for some reason. I would assume it was, a divine reason. And you had to write a 12-page research paper. So I was learning.
And there was no chat back
he was preparing me. No, you had to get books out of the library. We did have Google. It was not as efficient. And you had your sources had to be credible. You couldn't just go online and read stuff. You had to like provide your sources. So it was like he was preparing me in that moment. Because I was going to be a mom to a kid with autism. And it's just wild to look back on.
It really,
all the preparation.
It really is. Like he's so intentional with everything, every aspect of our lives. And even though this is undoubtedly the hardest thing I think you've ever had to go through, I think any mom would have to go through, is like seeing their child in, thankfully he's not really in pain now, but it's seeing their child not be who they want or they thought that they were going to be, right? It's still
Well, they're to some degree struggling. Like, it's a beautiful thing. It's a gift. There's joy, there's purpose, but they do struggle. That's why they have help and resources and intervention. I think that it was the most heartbreaking thing for sure.
Yeah. And I think that is, as a mom, that's so, I can't, it's the worst thing to see your kids struggle and hurt and then also feel that you can't do anything and that it's kind of out of your hands and you don't have control over the situation. But I think it's also a beautiful reminder that God is in control, and he has been in control of this from the very beginning. And again, I don't think Tate was destined to, live a life that is nonverbal or to live a life that is different from everybody else. But I think this was always a part of his path and his plan. And for you to be able to kind of step back and say, okay, this is exactly where we're supposed to be right now, and we're working towards something better. He has a big story. God has a plan for him. It's literally written into his name. And I'm going to take the steps that God is telling me to take to walk through this and bring Tate to who he is meant to be in God. It just like gives me chills even thinking about it.
Me too.
Because I really believe that every person, regardless of their neurotypical or neurodivergent, has a really big purpose and mission and just plan on this earth. And so if you are listening to this and you feel like you don't, you do. It's probably even written in your name. And again,
the story of your life.
Yeah. And again, I'm not trying to say that you're not going to have hardships or it's not going to be this, or it's going to be this very easy, route to get there. But I just think that this is part of a master plan that's so much bigger than us. And, maybe we'll never know the full extent of we probably will never know the full extent of what God has going on and who he has created us to be and who he's created our kids to be. But how cool that we have someone always looking out for us, always in our corner, always with the plan. And it's just hard to surrender that control sometimes and trust. But it's kind of beautiful when you do trust. And I think we could learn a lot from Tate because he trusts. He's in his own little world. And I think we could all be a lot more, or be like Tate a lot more, and just exude this just reassurance that, or this like, I'm tripping over my words here, but exude this like being of being held, like the divine, we're all divinely held.
It's pure.
Yeah. It's just, sorry, I just rambled, but.
No, that was really so sweet. I loved that. I think that's what changed everything for me, was that our lives already are written. The story is already written before we're born, and the author is incredible. And the moment that really shifted for me, and I've spoken very briefly about it on another episode, was my friend Carrie, who said, this was always going to be Tate's story. But what is so powerful is that God specifically chose you and Ross to be his parents because he entrusted you with this gift of a child, as well as Phoebe. We were chosen for a reason. And so that really shifted for me, is like, my purpose is to be their mom in the way that glorifies God and honors both of them. And so that's when I really had the mindset shift of, I'm going to honor that this was hard and this really scared me and upset me, but now I need to walk in this purpose that I've been called to walk in and provide him and my daughter with whatever they need emotionally and physically.
That's beautiful. And so it just like warms my heart too to hear that. And I wish that more people would realize that that's actually attainable for them too. And it's hard to relinquish that control to, I'm like, myself included, of like, I hear myself in that story too. I'm like, okay, I need to just sit back and be like, and let go of the control and walk in my purpose as a mom, as, you know, with my kids, with my husband, like as a wife, in all aspects of my life.
Yeah.
Because we're called to so much more outside of what we think is important: finances, jobs, careers. You know, there's not to say those things aren't important. They absolutely are. And I think a lot of us do have callings, you know, in career. But at the same time, I think it's funny. I actually had my meeting with Heather right before this, and she had me write out this like list of everything that I'm holding right now. And then in purple, which is like the divine color, circle what God really wants me to focus on. And it's time with my kids, spirituality, and the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we've talked about this before. It's all of these things
They do
matter. You know, your family, your career, your finances, your bills you have to pay. They all serve a purpose, but there's a spiritual order to things. And I think we so easily get out of the order. Whereas for me, it's going to look different for everyone. For me, it's my time, my relationship with God, honoring that, honoring myself so that I can honor my husband and my children and my household and this podcast and my friendships and my relationships and my family. All of it's important. I think we just have to pay attention to the order that we
do it in. I agree. I'm the same way. And I think I am guilty of getting out of order and getting it and just trying to focus. We all are, I'm sure, but recently.
Well, I think that's like, seasons of life where I think, okay, right now, my job really requires a lot of my attention. So how can I pour into that and myself so that I can show up as a business owner and a mom and a wife. And then there are times where your kids will require more of your attention, or your husband will require more of your attention. I think it's season by season. In my opinion.
No, I think you're right. It is season by season, and it is constantly changing. But I realize that at the root of everything that I do is my family. So my kids and my husband and my spirituality, my connection with God. Like that is what has to be the lens that I run everything through. And I think if you run everything through that lens and that filter, everything gets a little bit easier when you're trying to figure out what to prioritize and what to hold and how to walk and how to be, you know, to bring it full circle back into what you're talking about, how to walk in your purpose and in your plan in a way that's joyful and exciting, like not toxic positivity. You know, it's going to be hard. There's going to be difficulties, but how to walk and follow God in a way that is joyful obedience and excitement for what's ahead. So.
Yeah. No notes.
No notes. Okay. Well, I know you have to run and grab Tate. That's perfect. Right on the dot for.
I know. Got to go get my precious angel. I'm so glad we got to honor him in this episode because that child, I could talk about him all day.
He's so precious.
I mean, I know everybody boasts over their children. I'm just so proud of him.
And he's come so far.
He teaches us so much on a daily. He has. He's worked so hard.
Yeah.
He's taught me so much about myself and the things that matter. My husband too. And just seeing Phoebe just live and breathe inclusivity as a sister to a special needs sibling. There is so much joy, so many gifts to be found. So I'm really, thank you for taking the time to honor him and
of course
all the sweet little kids with autism because they really are so special.
They are. Thank you for sharing it on the podcast. I know it's not easy to talk about. Not a ton of people talk about it, especially in a very vulnerable way like you just did. And so I really appreciate it.
Thanks for providing the space.
Okay, why?
And for being a great auntie to
Oh,
Tate.
of course. Anytime. Noah and I are always praying for him and Phoebe and you guys. Uncle
Yeah,
Ross
she
and
loves her Tate.
she loves Tate. Oh my gosh. She's like, and Tate. And I'm like, whoa.
And
like,
Tate.
okay, I got it.
We're getting there.
So cute.
I love it. It's so sweet.
Alrighty. Well, you have a wonderful rest of your day. And when you download the episodes, do you mind just sending me the Google link once they're like downloaded in Google Drive?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great because then I can just download, and I'm going to really try and make it a priority to get social media clips back up because I have been slacking on it.
It's kind of crazy. Like, without social media, we do have regular listeners.
I know. I've noticed that
when
too.
I look back at the analytics, I'm like, there's a good amount of you.
I know. I'm like,
so no pressure.
I feel like this is just us yapping, but it really is. It's so fun. I'm so glad. Thank you for listening. For everybody who listens, I hope it helps and that you feel loved and divinely held, because we all are.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Well, I'm going to jump to this other call, but thanks for chatting. I love you. I'll see you later.
Thanks for being here with us today. If something resonated, maybe a sentence, a silence, or a story, hold on to that. If you felt seen or stirred or simply curious, we hope you'll join us again. Until then, stay open, stay tender, and remember, there's always a seat for you at the table.